All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another conversation, this storytelling project that I am just really enjoying. Um, those of us who live in the mountains of Western North Carolina, we are experiencing this 1 year anniversary, 1 year later of Hurricane Helene that came through. There are stories of loss and overcoming. And tonight or today, I have Barbara both with me. Barbara is a friend of mine, and I can't wait for you to hear some of her stories, and actually a very interesting story that we share that happened over the radio, actually. Through Hurricane Helene. So, Barbara, if you want to just maybe introduce yourself and share a little bit about you.
So, as you said, I am Barbara Bothe, and I live in the beautiful mountains of Western North Carolina. I was married for 41 years, been widowed for 4 years, and this is relevant to what we'll be talking about later. After my husband died, I decided that I had a farm, and I created a rescue farm for small, actually miniature farm animals.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in addition to that, I do business development for a company locally.
Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit. I've been out to your place before and it's charming. I love it. But tell me a little bit about the animals that you have right now.
Oh, sure. So the first animals that ever came to me were Shetland sheep, and they have a life expectancy of 9 to 12 years. And I got two of them to live to 14. I got one left. She's 13. But since then, I've acquired a sheep that has her back leg was broken twice.
Oh,
So Caroline's with me. She's only about 3. And I have two miniature cows and a surprise miniature cow. So they're called miniature zebus, and they look like Brahmins, if you know what a Brahmin looks like. And Cinderella was knocked into a bonfire when she was 6 months old, and she has third-degree burns all over her body. And Ferdinand was supposed to be a breeding bull, and it turned out that he suffers dwarfism. So, on top of being a miniature, so they didn't want to breed him. Apparently, before he became a steer, a one night stand took place because one morning I woke up and I had a baby calf in my yard. So that was Thumper. I thought she was a rabbit and I named her Thumper. And then in January of this year, one day before having major knee surgery, I ended up with two miniature horses completely out of the blue.
wow.
Because who doesn't adopt miniature horses just before
Right.
having knee surgery?
You needed
And I love
physical
all my
therapy
animals.
anyway.
Yeah, I love all my animals. I have also an amazing golden doodle that sheds worse than any dog I've ever had. Go figure.
Hmm. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
you may hear him once bark.
Well, and that's totally okay. I have my two fur babies in here with me as well. So, like I told you, this is two friends having a conversation about
Yeah.
something that happened a year ago. So, I really appreciate you just being willing just to have this conversation. And I don't know about you, Barbara, but for me, being able to talk about something that has happened is very cathartic and healing. What we experienced a year ago before Hurricane Helene hit the mountains, we really didn't know what we were in for. And so I wanted us just to talk some, or and for you to talk some about the storm. So can you remember like what was it like the days leading up before Hurricane Helene was to hit?
Oh, yeah. So we had rain for I think 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
and the rivers were already at flood stage. And I'm not a prepper in the sense of whatever, but I know how to be prepared. And so and again, I mentioned already, I'm a widow, I live alone. I pulled out my generator and FaceTimed with my son-in-law, who's in Tennessee, and we went through the steps for starting it and started right up. And that was on Thursday.
Okay.
I operate an Airbnb out of my home. I had a couple of guests from Germany who arrived on Thursday. And I said, look, we're about to get hit. We didn't know it was going to be this bad, but we knew it was going to be bad. And I said, I'm likely going to lose my power. If you guys want to cancel your reservation and go on to Charleston, it's okay.
Hmm.
And they said, no, we want to stay here. And their whole trip here was to go hiking,
Oh
which
no.
now know from the aftermath, they didn't get to do any hiking.
Yeah.
But I made sure that I had the groceries that I needed. And I already had two people staying with me whose water had gone out. And we learned later that it was because of a shifting in the lines from the saturation of the ground. So that tells you how bad it was before Helene ever hit.
Hmm.
Um, so I got 50 gallons worth of gas between my car and my generator and every gas can I had. So I filled up with that and I got cash from the bank so that I would be good there. I'm fortunate. My generator has enough cranking watts to be able to manage my is it watts or volts? I don't know, whatever. To be able to handle my well because we're on a well. And that was a blessing. The majority of my neighbors that had generators could not power their wells.
Yeah.
So anyway, but you know, I think as the ground was so saturated, you know, I've got this farm, small farm, and I'm on the side of a mountain. If I get flooded, call Noah. So I thought about the people who have animals. Many times pastures are in low-lying places. And so I actually went on Facebook to the Hendersonville, North Carolina page. And I also called my good friend Mark Starling, who's the news director at WWNC,
Yeah.
and who absolutely navigated us through the whole thing.
They
But I
did.
got in touch with Mark beforehand. And I said, if anybody needs a place to bring an animal, I don't have a trailer, but I'll take the animals. And I think you heard that on the air, didn't you?
I did. And actually, I wanted to show you this. This little radio right here was my lifeline. I mean, and it's just one of those little
Mm-hmm.
hand crank for American Red Cross radios. And we were without power as well. And I did have batteries and things like that, but this was the only thing I had to
Mm.
this radio and WWNC is that they were the ones that connected me and let me know what was going on because from my front porch I had no idea.
No, none of us had a clue how widespread it was.
Right.
One of the things that I did not do, note to self, is I did not think about the fact that the internet might go out. And I thought, well, I've got a generator. I can stream movies. Oh, you can't do that. And I thought, I'll download some books on my Kindle. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
Nope.
Do it. So we were very grateful. We dug out an old DVR and got and watched some old movies that we still had on disc.
Yeah. So, how many times did you walk through your house when the power is out and flip a switch thinking that the light's going to come on?
In the first couple of days, of course, so many times.
Right.
So many times. But you know, you asked me what I did leading up to the storm. The other thing was, so I had the two boarders for the two Airbnb people, the two people who were already without water, and my house was pretty full. So I decided to sleep out on my porch because I didn't want to miss the storm. I'm a Florida girl.
Okay.
I didn't want to miss the storm. And I slept through part of it.
Oh,
And by the way, the sheep never looked up from grazing.
they didn't.
Think about it. They have lanolin in their wool, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're a spinner. I mean, you know
Yes.
about fibers, and it didn't phase them. The cows and the horses, they were huddled in their little shelters.
Yeah. Yeah. So you slept through the storm, but it sounds like
No, the first part of it.
the first part of it. Okay. But because of probably past experience, you knew you had a generator, you knew to have some things basic supplies set up for whatever would happen. Kind of a, we're gonna roll with the punches here, people, you know? So
Yeah.
so then so you had guests with the Airbnb that were,
Paying guests from Germany.
yes. So can you describe what it was like after the storm hit and just
Well, well, let me describe how that morning unfolded.
okay.
So I woke up never dreaming that I would have slept through this much of it. And I have some hemlocks that are, I was actually hoping they would come down and they didn't. But I realized the cars were still in the driveway. So there, it had stopped raining. And I thought, well, the storm's over, but trees, ground saturated, anything can happen. And so I jumped up and I moved my car and I moved my guest cars down into my driveway, which is in an open area. And by the time I got back in the house, the power had gone out. I immediately went to start the generator, and at that moment, the rain started again.
Oh wow.
And I was, I mean, again, Florida girl. I can't tell you I've ever been that saturated outside of actually being underwater.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I went to start the generator. Remember, I practiced with it the day before,
Mm-hmm.
and it started right up and it shut right off,
Mm.
and it wouldn't start anymore.
Okay.
So, like Blanche Dubois in a streetcar called named Desire, I have always relied on the kindness of others, and contacted one of my neighbors who's an engineer, and he came up and determined that there was water in the line, and he cleared it quickly. And our generator was, we never had another moment of trouble with our generator.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when I was out there running around doing all of that, I had my cell phone in my back pocket, and I hadn't thought to charge it up the night before.
Mm.
So I was extremely low on battery, and then it wouldn't charge because there was moisture in the charging port.
Mm.
So my kids are trying to get a hold of me, and they can't. And it took until about 4 o'clock that afternoon before my phone was actually dry enough for me to use it. Lesson learned.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm sure your kids were relieved when they finally got to hear your voice and know that you were okay.
They were, Michelle, but people outside of this area knew more about what was going on than we did.
That's very
And
true.
I'm gonna flip on a light because I see I'm getting darker and darker.
Okay.
Um, I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah. Perfect.
So they were hearing the extent of the catastrophe more than you and I were.
Yes.
And so they were very worried. And as you know, the cell towers ran out of fuel. I had no idea that a cell tower could run out of fuel, and they couldn't get to the cell towers to replenish the fuel.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't have good cell service for almost a week. Um, so my kids were very worried. We did a lot of texting. We were able to get, just enough signal out to do texting. Um, but when I could, I recorded some videos on Facebook
Mm-hmm.
just to kind of let people know what it felt like here.
Yeah.
And after a few days, I stopped doing them because I realized that the mask that I can normally put on, we all do that, right?
Right.
Um, I couldn't do it. I could not put that mask on for the video. And I did not want people to see a gloom and doom Barbara.
Yeah.
Do gloom and doom. Um, but right afterwards too, I'm sorry. Friday night, I could hear a big helicopter coming. And I thought maybe it was the mountain area mobility helicopter. It wasn't. It was a Chinook, a
Yeah.
huge helicopter.
Yes.
And it went right over my car because I could see the reflection in the windshield.
Mm.
And it went to the mountain ridge right over here. And I have a view of the mountains, and it just went up there. And all I could think of was something terrible is happening to somebody. Now, I later heard, I don't know if it's verified, but I later heard that they were actually delivering a vehicle up there so that they could do some search and rescue on the ground. And for a Chinook, that's entirely possible.
Right.
But you know, Michelle, I think the helicopters is one of the things that I'll never forget. Um, I wish I could show you guys my view, but it's literally 180 degrees of the mountains, all clear. And there was a drone of helicopters for about 4 days nonstop. And as I understand it, two things were happening. One, and this is round the clock, day and night, they were working grid patterns, trying to locate people, rescue people,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other was they were bringing in supplies
Hmm.
to our little, I live in Etowah. Our fire station was flooded up through the second floor.
Oh my goodness,
Not,
really?
I don't think all the way up, but enough
Yeah.
that they had to vacate the fire station and stage at the Baptist church, which
Hmm.
is right around the corner from me. And
Hmm.
I think, as I understand it, because I couldn't get out, I understand that they were dropping supplies there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were talking about how those of us who were here without our eyes and ears really had no idea what was happening all around us. I don't know about you, but it was very slowly dawned on me, and it took people telling me it's really bad in Asheville. And what do you mean? I mean, because on my street, I mean, there are hundreds of trees down, but houses are up and no, not, I wasn't thinking about mudslides. I wasn't thinking about 30-foot swells of water in downtown Asheville and Marshall and Lake Lure being just decimated. I could not imagine that was going on. And it was very sobering as
Mhm.
as we began to hear the news
Oh,
of what really had happened to us.
oh, there aren't really any words that can put somebody in that position.
Yeah.
It's just the not knowing. I mean, I knew I was safe. My stupid hemlocks didn't fall. Um, I didn't even realize it for a few weeks that I lost some trees. I've got acreage and part of it is wooded, and I lost some trees up in the woods. And by lost, some of them fell on another tree and they're hanging like
Hmm.
this. Um, but the neighborhood right around the corner from me, there was not a single house that didn't have a tree on it.
Mm.
And I mentioned a lot of my neighbors didn't have water.
Yeah.
And so I did. So I put a big cardboard sign, got my Sharpie out and said, water, bring your own jugs. And I put that up on my mailbox and people came up to fill water jugs. I had a few people that came and took showers here.
Yeah.
It
That
was all for one and one for all, don't
it
you think?
real Yes. Yeah, it really was. And it was what I saw were people who had resources that were sharing with each other. Or I mean, even if it was a cookout, hey, our freezer, we're gonna grill all the food that's in our freezer. Come over and eat with us. I mean, we had our neighbors, we had picnics, and we would all bring food that we did not want to spoil, and you had a
Mhm.
limited time, and we would talk about, well, what's going on with you? My
Mhm.
husband works at Mission Hospital, so everything that was going on at Mission, John said it was like practicing in the dark ages because they had a flashlight, no flushing water, it just was
Mhm.
a very difficult way to practice in the emergency room and with everything coming in. But I know I felt like people were talking to each other. At least this was my experience that where there's nothing to do, we're walking in the neighborhood. We are talking to people. Are you okay? Do you need anything? How are you doing? Even can I pray for you? One of
Mhm.
the DJs at 106.9 The Light, Trisha, just lives
Mhm.
right up the right, just a few houses up from me. And
Uh-huh.
Trisha was walking up and down the road praying and talking to people. And it was just really
Yeah.
very encouraging in those early days when we didn't know what was
Oh yeah.
going on.
Oh yeah. Um, it I had so in my neighborhood, my part of the neighborhood is very, very old. There's a newer section, and their power was restored way before mine was.
Hmm.
I had a neighbor that I don't even know do laundry for me.
Oh,
I mean, that's that's a highly personal thing, you know.
yeah.
Oh, let me tell you about the Germans. It
Oh,
was very
yeah. I want to hear about that.
yeah. So they were a couple of professors from Germany, and they asked me if I had a backgammon board, and I did. And my family, we're all about card games and table games. And so the two people that were already here, and then I had other people that came, we were all game players. And we kept inviting them to join us. No, they played backgammon all day long from Friday morning till Tuesday when they were able to get out.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm
Okay.
like, they did try on Monday to go for a hike. They were sure that they could overcome anything. And they went to a hike just inside Pisgah Forest. I can't remember the name of it right now because, of course, the camera.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, they got partway through and they started climbing over logs and whatnot, and they turned around and came back. They said it's not possible. When they left on Tuesday, it took them 2.5 hours to get to the freeway. I'm 20 minutes to the freeway.
Wow.
Yeah, they texted me once they got out of the area.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned the kids and what they were thinking. I was getting all kinds of text messages. Um, my son and his girlfriend out in California, they were like, "What do you need?"
Yeah.
And I said, I think that a lot of people are going to need care packages. I said, I'm not feeling it at this moment, but having been through other things like when my husband died and just other things, you don't realize how much those things mean. So, and I needed AA batteries. I needed treats for the horses, and or no, I didn't have the horse at the time, but the cows. Um, and they shipped them to me, multiple shipments, and they were lost.
Mm.
My
Yeah.
daughter's best friend in San Diego wanted to send me a care package that was lost.
Yeah.
Even though it came from Amazon, their trucks weren't running, and they were sending it to the United States Postal Service. And I heard that happen to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know, Michelle, how you did with groceries. But for me, I I'm a little bit of a food hoarder anyway. So we were not going to starve. But I don't know if people watching this know that our grocery store, our biggest grocery store chain, was wiped out. And that included their data processing center. And so what food they had on the shelves, none of it fresh, none of it frozen, but even the canned goods, they couldn't even sell it with plastic. You had to pay cash.
Yes.
And and they were only letting people in the grocery stores like four at a time.
Yep. Yeah.
Walmart, the same story. So I could get to the store and get some things, but I had an option of somebody from out of the area.
Yeah.
And I had a gal from Johnson City that I have known since she was a little girl. She's was one of my students, and she insisted on bringing me groceries like more than I even knew what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
But my nephew, who was one of the ones staying here, he drives every day from Asheville to Nashville and back during the overnight hours, delivering car parts. He had gone over the gorge about 2 hours before it collapsed.
Oh my goodness.
And by the way, he could not get home here. He had to sleep in his van in a Lowe's parking lot
Mm-hmm.
because the roads were blocked every way he tried to get here.
Mm-hmm.
But they changed his route and they had him go down through Greenville, Atlanta, and up to Cartersville, Georgia. And somebody came down from Nashville. Well, it just so happens that one of my best friends lives in Cartersville, Georgia. And so we were able to communicate with her. And she and her husband and their neighbors put together my Aldi order. I said, this is what I need from Aldi. These things you're going to have to get at Kroger, whatever. And they went grocery shopping and then met my nephew at a truck stop
Mm-hmm.
because
That's
I
crazy.
could get food from there. I didn't need to take food off the shelves that other people couldn't, you know.
Right. Sure.
Necessity being the mother of invention.
Yeah. So I have an interesting situation where
Yep.
my sister-in-laws and my niece from Charleston, South Carolina, had already booked a cabin in, oh, I don't remember where it was. It was in North Carolina. It was about an hour away from us. And I told them, don't come. Do not come. You
Mhm.
don't want to come up here and then get stuck or whatever.
Mhm.
And they did not listen. And they did make it to that Airbnb and they said, we want you to come. And at that point, it had been a week without a
Oh,
bath. JP and I were chigger infested on our legs because we'd been
oh,
to a wedding the week before that was out in a field. And so we had chiggers on our legs. And so when we got to them, they had bought us new underwear and socks and pajamas. And as soon as we walked in the door, they said, go take a bath, go take a shower. They had also bought a lot of groceries and things that they were anticipating that we might need or that we could share with other people. And we went home with a car full of items. But I remember they were so excited to see us.
yeah.
I was so numb
I
that I
know.
just,
You couldn't even express an emotion, right?
no, I couldn't. I was happy to see them, but I was not okay.
Yeah. Well, I remember you called me,
I did.
what, within 2 weeks or very soon after, just to say I'm checking in.
Right.
How are you doing?
Yes.
And we really, at that time, we really didn't know each other very well. Our friendship has
Mm-mm.
really developed since then. Um, and it was like the first time that I stopped to go, oh, I need to check in on me. And I think that that's amazing of you to have thought to do that to all these business contacts that you have, because that's how you and I first met.
Right. And the reason why is I was seeing people that, and I knew because what I had heard on the radio, I didn't know. I was assuming you had animals other than your animals that you were caring for, and so I just,
Yeah,
I wanted to make sure that you were okay, that you were taking breaks and,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's a trauma response just to keep going and not stop.
It absolutely is. And when we were just about a month out, um, I was watching a podcast done by a former employer, Bill Gilliland, and he's a business coach. But he said, if you are in Western North Carolina and you have not left the area for at least 2 days, you need to go. You need to see that the world is still revolving.
Yes.
And I took that to heart and booked a hotel room at the beach and went in election day and voted and came home and got my dog Archie and took off for the beach. And I went on a complete and total media, social media, news, anything fast.
Mm-hmm.
I turned it on about 9:30 Tuesday night just to say, well, how are the elections going? And I immediately turned it back off. I was like, I don't need this. And I sat on the beach for 2 days with an umbrella and just read.
Yeah.
It was the best thing I could have done.
Yeah.
We had to know that the outside world was still normal. It was
Right.
surreal to realize that,
Yeah.
but I think it was important.
I will say that for us, our home did not have any damage as far as trees. We had flooding, and we also live on a mountain, and the water runs downhill. So our basement flooded, but nothing
Mm,
like what other people experienced,
right.
like in Swannanoa and Lake Lure. But where it really hit us and what hard was my husband's art
Yeah.
studio in the River Arts District.
Yeah.
So, and he has agreed to do this with me as well. So he is going to talk about it. But we spent 2 solid weeks driving down to the River Arts District, going through the muck and the mud to get to his studio because it's an art studio. We didn't know how long we had before either the building would be closed and condemned, all of the items in a 1,500 square foot studio. I mean, there was 2 feet of water in his studio on the second floor. We did not know. We knew that time was not on our side. So I still have Helene mud in the SUV.
I
It's
bet you do.
still there inside the car, in the truck. And we worked and worked and worked and worked, and so many people came and helped. And Barbara, I think that you being in that, with your husband, being a doctor and you being around the medical profession, that you would appreciate this. But when I was ready to quit, JP kept on going. And I told him, I said, you know what? I love you and I admire you for that, because if I was dying, you're the one that I would want working on me, the
Mhm.
one who's not going to quit
Yeah.
until you call it time.
Yeah.
And through the tremendous help of other people, we were able to save 4 storage units worth of things from his studio, and they're also in our house as well. But
I
he
mean, that
lost a
that
lot.
that's amazing that you were able to establish that much when you consider there was a winery right in front of where you guys were, and it was washed of everything but its slab.
Right.
And one little place where the cash register had been. I don't know how that stood.
Let me tell you, that Plebe Winery,
Yeah.
so JP and I, we went down there on Sunday,
Okay.
and we had the police were not going to let us in on the river, on the French, right there at the French
Yeah.
Broad River, understandably so.
Hmm.
But we were determined to get to his studio, so we parked behind the railroad tracks and walked in.
Okay.
And I remember just being so astounded by what we saw. I mean, even people with the art, the marquees, you know, artwork was just washed down the
Yeah.
railroad tracks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, the idea that these huge wine vats, because they brewed on premises and just,
Yep, they were
so
behind the building,
yeah.
and
So,
there
oh,
was
yeah.
a couch over by the pottery studio, which
Mhm.
was kind of adjacent to where JP was. There was a couch and a chair up on the roof. The water was that high. It
Wow.
washed things on the roof that you would have never expected to have seen there.
I was in Swannanoa months afterwards, and I saw a semi, um, the trailer part of it, and there was a car. So the semi's here, and there was a car on top of it, just sitting on top of it like this.
Yeah.
Um, you know, as we began to unfold and roads opened, and something I'm sure you noticed that I noticed is a road could be open this morning and it could be closed that afternoon because there's power line crews, there's
Hmm.
people cutting trees,
Yeah.
you could never know what route to take. But my I, this won't surprise you, but I have a whole bunch of extra kids. Okay. My kids, their friends, have had multiple ones that have lived with us and whatnot. And one of my son's buddies, Ryan, was living in Florida and he called me. So the storm was on Friday and he called me on, I think, Wednesday. And he calls me Madre. I'm not Spanish. Don't ask. Um, he called me up and he said, Madre, I'm coming up. And he said it was because Hurricane Milton was going to come across Florida. But after he got up here, what he really admitted was he wanted to check and make sure I was okay,
Yeah.
you know, and he stayed with me for several days. Um, my brother-in-law, actually my ex-brother-in-law, um, who his ex was living in my house at that moment, he came from Calhoun, Georgia, and he brought 100 gallons of fuel
Wow.
because he'd heard there would be shortages.
Oh, hang on just a minute. I've
Oh,
lost. Okay, keep talking.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay.
No, you got me. Okay. So he put gasoline in milk jugs, in gallon jars, you name it. He brought 100 gallons of gas just to make sure we were okay. And he came up and because I have a farm, I have a tractor, and he used my bush hog to clear a lot of incidental storm debris.
Oh, that's good.
Um, now I have a concrete driveway, but I have a second house Airbnb on my property, and that's a gravel driveway. And the mountain found a new way to shed the water.
Hmm.
And that was right down my driveway. It used to go beside my driveway. You're frozen.
I know.
I don't know what you heard and what got
Oh
recorded.
no, it recorded.
Okay.
It recorded.
Okay. So as I was saying, the mountain found a new way for the water to shed. And it
Yeah.
was right down my gravel driveway. So all the gravel, and it's a steep slope, all the gravel washed out onto the road or into the grass. And
Wow.
you can't recover gravel from grass. You just can't.
Mm-hmm.
And I had ruts that were a foot deep. Oh, I'm fortunate that I have this tractor and I have a box blade.
Mm-hmm.
And this is an example of neighbors helping neighbors. I went to a neighbor with whom I'm sort of acquainted, young guy, and he was out there grading his driveway. And I said, Alan, I said, could I hire you, pay you to come and scrape my driveway? And he said, no, ma'am. I'm going to go scrape your driveway, and
Oh,
I'm going to teach you how to do it.
there you go.
So,
Yeah. So, so there was some community even out in the where you are because the houses are spread out. They're not close together.
oh, this end of my neighborhood, we go to a dead end that ends at the French Broad River.
Mm-hmm.
We, to be honest, a lot of them came to me when my husband died. They were waving acquaintances, but when he died, they rallied around him for the first week. It was neighbors bringing food. So we had that. And now we have picnics. And again, this goes back for a few years, but we have picnics once or twice a year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's neighbor helping neighbor.
Yeah.
And I cannot even imagine how many trees my neighbors got cut down for other neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
I drove around with my tractor, even in the subdivision area, looking for trees that were down that, maybe just needed a chain wrapped around them and, pulled or whatever. Um,
Look at you working farm equipment.
I
That's so
know.
cool. I love it. I could see
Yeah,
you doing that,
yeah.
Barbara.
People used to think I was quite the yuppie, but my life has changed. First off, I would be
Well,
an opie now, but
yeah, I will tell you, I wore mud for weeks. And we
Yeah,
would, my boots, I ended up having to throw them away. I wouldn't walk in the house with them,
see,
because I didn't know what was in the mud, you know.
oh yeah.
Um, but
Oh, yeah, no. I totally, we didn't have that experience.
mm-hmm.
But I mentioned Ryan coming up, and what I really meant to tell you was the roads were kind of open, and so we decided to take a drive and see. And I've been thinking the whole time, it's not that hard to cut a tree. I mean, if the tree's down, I've got a steel chainsaw. I can cut a tree. We got over to Sweeten Creek Road, and then I understood there were 30 or 40 trees that were all like this.
Yep.
And the thing is, and it's like a game of pickup sticks. What
Right.
you do here affects over here. It
Mm-hmm.
was dangerous for people who didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
Well, so Ryan and I went Sweeten Creek Road, and we didn't go too far and just want to know. We just kind of went on the highway and just gasped at what we saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went you couldn't go through Biltmore Village, but we went up to the edge. And then we went around and went to downtown Asheville. And this was a Friday afternoon in October now.
Right.
Now, Asheville on a Friday afternoon in October is hopping. There were no cars. It was like a late Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And we drove over to Riverside Drive and went up to Marshall. And what struck us was, of course, we would see here's the Red Cross set up here, here's the Red Truck Men set up here, here's the Cajun Navy set up there, and so on. But there's a PVC pipe manufacturing company, I didn't even know it existed, that's there. And when we went past, their yard had lots of PVC that was still stacked nicely, but in bunches all over. It was like somebody had dumped a bunch of Legos.
Wow.
So that was, you know, as we rode from there to Marshall, there wasn't there wasn't any spot of the French Broad River that didn't have PVC pipes.
Mm.
And we saw the railroad tracks where it was eroded underneath the railroad tracks.
Yep.
And by the time we got to Marshall, we didn't know at that time how bad Marshall was. We wouldn't have gone up that far. We did not go in. But we both said we need to go home. We can't see anymore. Our capacity was maxed out.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Every corner you went around, you saw something new and something awful.
Right.
Um, I do marketing to apartment complexes, and I asked them how they handled the fact that the city of Asheville didn't have potable water for 2 months.
Yep.
And they said that they, in multiple apartment complexes, told me, well, we let the residents bring whatever water jug or whatever they had and get swimming pool water to flush the toilets.
Mm-hmm.
That's like something you don't think about.
Mm-mm.
But if people who were not here are watching this, there were bucket brigades. Were you on the bucket brigade? Tell me about it, because I hadn't talked to anybody that did it.
Okay. So, my friend Christopher works for Givens Estates that lives up the hill. His
Mhm.
his house got demolished with trees going down, but he told me that they were needing people that could come and flush toilets at Givens Estates. And I had done enough of helping my husband that I really needed to do something else. And so for for 10 days. I would go at certain times of the day to Givens Estates, take the water, go into the residents' apartments, flush their toilets so that what was in the bowl would go down. And um, it was really very an honor for me
Mhm.
to be able to help them to do that. And they were embarrassed. And I said, it's really okay. I'm here because I want to be here.
Yeah.
I want to help you. Now, there were a few times I thought I was going to throw up. I'm not going to lie, but I powered through. But knowing that someone was going to get to have a clean toilet to go in for,
The
eight,
blessing
10,
was yours.
yes.
hmm Well, I mean, the Bible says it's more blessed to give than to receive.
Yeah.
And I know, and by the way, receiving takes a special skill that I've had to learn.
Same. Same.
After Brian died, I had to learn that, okay, you've done a lot for other people. It's time to let other people do for you.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that you just don't even think about.
Mm-mm.
Um, I have a casual group of business acquaintances. A second Monday of every month, we go to a rooftop bar in Asheville, and just for like an hour or so, and just kick back. Well, of course, we didn't do it in October. So November came around, and somebody said, "Well, downtown still doesn't have much going, and let's go to somewhere in South Asheville." And I said, "No, this is when we need to go to downtown Asheville.
Yeah.
They need us, the servers, and the bartender knew us." And we got there to Hemingway's, and they had huge water trucks outside.
Yeah.
And they had, I think it was World Central Kitchen, maybe. I can't
Mm-hmm.
remember, but there was a group that they were housing and that were eating there, and they had buffets set up for them and whatnot. And all our drinks were mixed with bottled water, you
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
and all of that. But they were so appreciative that we came.
Right. Yeah, because they needed the business, and no one's coming to Asheville, or no one knows if they can even go there. I remember the first time JP and I ate out in public, and we
Hmm
went to Typhoon Noodle down on
Oh,
Hendersonville Road.
yeah,
I was so happy to not eat ready prepared food, or and we did have food. I had chopped and had prepared, but we did have ready prepared food as well,
yeah,
and we did eat it, but it was so nice to eat something different for a change.
yes,
And
yes,
I remember just feeling so grateful to be out of the house and to be able just to go somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah.
What impressed me, my favorite restaurant is 9 Mile, and the location on Montford and I've been going there since about 6 months after they opened, so 18 years or whatever.
Hmm.
And we checked to see if they were open, not realizing that that was the first day that they were open. And we got there, and they served us our beverage in a red Solo cup,
Yeah.
and we had disposable plates
Hmm.
and paper napkins. I think they do paper napkins anyway. The only thing that was real was the silverware. And
Hmm.
apparently they had said, "We're not doing plastic silverware. We're going to take it somewhere else and wash it."
Right.
But I talked to the servers and I said, "What has been your experience?" Because this was probably early November. And I don't remember exactly when they reopened. But what impressed me was how many of the servers had said, "Well, I'm not working. Let me go volunteer." Here they were, their livelihoods were completely stopped, and they were out there making a difference for somebody else.
Yeah.
And that touched my soul.
Yeah.
Don't always give, service personnel the love. Um, but my business was affected. So I worked for a restoration company.
Hmm.
We couldn't get into our shop for 4 days because of all the trees.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Um, and we had to call in. We Paul Davis is an international company, and we had to call teams in from all over. But my personal business of my Airbnb, I had 100% cancellation rate, and that's my base livelihood.
Hmm.
And I was very concerned. I was fortunate. Um, I had somebody who worked for FEMA who came and stayed 4 months.
Okay.
I housed traveling nurses, an archaeologist, an archaeologist who was brought in for 6 weeks to oversee a park getting cleaned up.
Hmm.
And it wasn't nearly as cool as you think it is. She said it was just sitting in a lawn chair, but still, I can't remember, but I ended up housing a lot of fiber optic guys, who were in town for a week and
Yeah.
whatnot. So, um, And my bookings have finally, they've recovered now,
Mm-hmm.
for my rooms in my home. They have not recovered for the house that I rent out.
Yeah,
Well, we told the world not to come here.
right. Yeah, we did. We did, but I know there's been a grand effort of come back to
Yeah.
Asheville.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now,
Barrbara, what?
yeah. Now for sure. I don't know if we're running out of time. My restoration company had a job, multiple jobs, but they had a job in Chimney Rock, and I needed to go out there and take pictures. It was so eerie because it was so quiet. The only sound was you could hear vehicles beep, 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 the backing up.
Yeah,
But otherwise, it was dead silent. That really got me. Also, driving on a road that all of a sudden the yellow line disappears and you're now driving on something that they just threw together.
yeah,
And the river is over here now when it was over there before.
right. And that's true with the French Broad too,
Yep.
because the French Broad doesn't have the banks that it had before. And I know in the spring, I needed to go into the woods and go to the places that I really love that make me happy just to see is it still there. I just didn't have the courage to go. And I remember going to a place on the banks of the French Broad, and I couldn't believe how deep or how steep it was, how much had been washed away, and what was up in the trees. There's sunflower stalks in the trees at the Biltmore estate, up and so it just gave me another perspective of how high the water was, how powerful it is. I have a new respect for mountain streams, houses that are built on hills. These are all things that I thought I wanted. I don't want that anymore. I don't want to live close to water. I don't want to live in a house that's built and propped up on the side of a mountain. Um, and it may never happen again. This was a 1 in 1,000 weather event, but
Easily, yeah.
I don't want to risk it.
Well, there was the summer that we had 200-year floods in one summer.
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah. So
we have to
Barbara,
see if it can happen again. Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, no. I wanted to ask you this in closing. So what do you think now that a year has we're coming upon that anniversary, what do you think is the thing that you've learned or that you are taking from your
Yeah.
experience with the hurricane?
I think that's a really important question, Michelle. Um, and I even pulled my leads group together and said, let's just talk about that.
Hmm.
What did we learn? What are we grateful for? And so on, because we have to focus on that. And I think that, again, having enough batteries, downloading things to your Kindle, and I'm telling you, cash is king in a situation like this.
Yeah,
You don't want to keep a bunch of cash around, but it ended up being absolutely critically important.
yeah,
So, but my heart is so warmed. I'm actually going and volunteering at Heroes of Helene next Thursday night. Um, just honoring some of those people. I'm so dadgum proud of the people in our mountains.
hmm,
So, having cash, yes. Having either hard copy books or having downloaded a bunch of stuff onto the Kindle.
hmm,
Um, and of course, really, I guess if you don't have power, the Kindle's not going to do you a lot of good once the battery runs out. But
right.
yeah, personally, I had that. But dang, the spirit of the mountains. I don't know, your T-shirt that you're wearing right now, still here, come hell or high water.
Right. Thanks, Dave Rydell, Big Frog.
Dave Riddell at Big Frog Custom T-shirts, he put
Yeah.
that together. Um, and when I wear that shirt out in public, people come up and they're like, "That's a really cool shirt," because It's us, don't you think, Michelle?
Yes, yes, and I think it's the evidence of survival.
Yes.
I'm still here. We're still here. Yes, there was a lot of terrible things that happened, and yes, there were people that died, and that doesn't take away from any of that, but we are here a year later,
Yeah.
a little wiser, a
Yeah.
little more cautious,
Yeah.
learning some lessons. But I also, have seen just incredible help, neighbors helping neighbors, churches helping communities, even in downtown Asheville. There's a church that meets at the Stevens Lee Center, Highland Christian Church, that became a hub for the folks that live in that area. And supplies were coming in and they were serving the people that were there. And I saw that time and time again. Even at a little church I volunteered with, the Place Fellowship in Fletcher. I was with them for a little while volunteering. And I mean, wherever there was people that were willing to work
Yeah.
and organize in
Mhm.
order to serve other people,
Yeah.
I mean, I saw it. And
Absolutely, Michelle. And there's something else that I think is really important. I don't know about you, but I had some survivor's guilt.
yeah,
And I was almost embarrassed when people would ask me, what our damage was or whatever. And we've mentioned Mark Starling. His wife, Brandy, is a psychotherapist. And every morning for at least 2 weeks, he had her on. And one day she addressed that very thing, this survivor's guilt. And she said something that really freed me. And it was, look, something has happened. There is nothing that you can do about it. What
right.
matters is what you do now.
Yeah.
And that is something that I think is a really important takeaway
Hmm.
for anybody that faces something like this in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'm so grateful for just the opportunity that we had just kind of unpack some of this and talk about some of the funny stories,
Yep,
some of the seriousness of the situation, but also just recognizing we're still here and that that we are a strong people.
we are a
Um,
strong people, even those of us who weren't born here.
right. That's
I've
exactly
lived,
right.
I've lived here long enough. I've adapted
Yeah.
to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, and I love the friendship that you and I have developed over this
Hmm.
year, and
I
look forward
agree.
to that
Yeah.
to grow.
Yeah.
And I'm honored that you invited me on this.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, Barbara. As a coach, I know that stories are important. And to be seen and heard and to for someone to hold space for you as you just talk about it is is one of the best gifts that you can give a person. And whether it's a funny situation, a funny interview or a very serious one, I still think that it all matters. And we can't compare our losses.
Correct. It's not
Cannot
a competition.
it is not. It is not a comparison, but that survivor's guilt, like you said, is real. Well, at least I didn't experience this, but we all experienced some things and had to figure it out.
Mhm.
So here we are.
I
So
know.
thank you so much for your time. And
Oh,
I hope you all enjoyed this story and keep coming back to this YouTube channel and finding out more and more about the amazing people that live here in the mountains of Western North Carolina. Thank you, Barbara.
thank you, Michelle. See you later.
Bye.